To keep secrets is to put up walls. The longer you keep them up, the less you let people in. Then, one day, you look around and realize your life is like an empty auditorium after a show, full of seats once occupied by all the people who left. But I guess that's the price we have to pay.
The beauty of complex characters is in their moral ambiguity. An unpredictable character makes for an interesting story. And today, I want to talk about the wonderful and wondrous magician himself, the great Lyney. Or at least, the deeper, sadder lore behind the man with a bright smile and unfathomable magic tricks. Today, let's delve into the sad history of Lyney Snezhevich and what it truly means to live behind smokes and mirrors. Disclaimer: this video is a character analysis on Lyney's backstory and the many thematic nuances that encapsulate his characterization. And because he'll be my focus, I won't be completely covering Lynette in this video. Though they are both twins, I believe that their narrative roles aren't the same. And as such, I want to focus solely on Lyney for this one so that I can fully cover his themes without any concern of overshadowing Lynette's. Because she is equally as complex as a character. Nevertheless, I hope that you enjoy. The sparks and the thrills of magic come from two things: the imaginative mind of the audience and the illusions of the magician. The great magician Lyney is an absolute delight on stage, with his many tricks and charming personality. Lyney is a master illusionist and is an expert in capturing the hearts of the audience. As such, he and his sister Lynette are renowned artists who regularly perform in Hotel de Bord and are esteemed members in Fontanian society, so much so that the Hydro Archon herself values the twins' knack for grandiose performances. Offstage, Lyney is a reliable older brother, courteous visitor and devoted friend. Suave, romantic, and talented, Lyney's shows always have a new trick to them to keep the audience guessing. He simply pursues novelty in his capacity as a performer, and he never pulls the same trick twice. His every move is a pleasant surprise, every word a reason to smile. But many guess if the Lyney on stage is truly the real Lyney. If he's as gracious and extravagant when he's alone, or with people that he's close to. And for that, we slowly peel behind the mask behind the magic and unravel the mystery behind this act as we ask the real question: who is Lyney Snezhevich? Lyney is a hard-working and diligent young man, born with only the gift of his wits and talent to keep himself and his sister afloat. The more we leave the glamorous lights of the opera house or the bedazzling aura of the stage performances, we slowly see the true Lyney. He's sentimental, protective, and caring, but also slow to trust and quick to hide behind a series of lies to protect himself. Lyney's heart is in a good place, but his story unravels the truth that he and Lynette are both guarded people. Furthermore, Lyney is efficient and keen, with a penchant for stressing over the smallest of details to achieve either the perfect illusion or the perfect mission accomplishment. He's a strategist and a planner first before he's an actual magician, as he has good knowledge about practical tools, gizmos, and how intricate clockwork machines work to achieve an illusion he intends for. Even he admits that the real him isn't as extroverted, and that this is mostly an act to get close to people or gain information. The truest him, at least according to his stories, comes out when he is with family and trusted companions, when he feels he is the safest. The great magician Lyney and Lyney Snezhevich are one and the same. And of course, like every good performer, Lyney can never let the mask slip lest he incur the disbelief of the audience. But before we can truly understand the themes behind Lyney's characterization, we need to understand where it came from. So first we begin with his childhood. Lyney and Lynette's childhood was nothing short of a struggle, as each day was a gamble if they would have enough food to survive. Having lost their parents at a young age, the two twins had only themselves as they roamed the streets. Magic became their benefactor. Street performing became their means of survival. They would go to crowded corners of a town and perform their magic tricks, and soon enough, they became popular. So popular, in fact, that an aristocrat took interest in the two street rats and asked if they wanted to be adopted by him. Eager to provide his sister a roof over her head and a meal every day, Lyney was eager to accept. But he soon realized the truth behind their adoption when their foster father sold Lynette off to an affluent degenerate because of her exotic features. Lyney attempted to rescue Lynette from the vile noble, but when he arrived there, the nobleman was already long killed, murdered in cold blood by Arlecchino. Afterwards, Lyney and Lynette were adopted by the knave, and thus became members of the House of the Hearth. When Lyney and Lynette first arrive at the hotel, they were not given the best greeting. The place was home to many orphans who shared similar experiences with him and his sister. The people here helped each other like a family would, greeting the fallout and consequences of those tragic years together. But the siblings, even with a recommendation from the manager of the hotel, did not find it at all that easy to fit in, nor was it easy for the children there to immediately accept these new outsiders. And in this environment, oppressive in its gloom, the water pumping equipment broke while Lynette was using it, right before everyone's eyes, deepening the distress to the extreme. It took a long time for Lyney and Lynette to earn the trust of the other children, but in due time, the residents became more willing to share their past with Lyney. The two slowly acclimated to their new lives and even met Femini along the way. Lyney also became the core of the hotel, a helping hand or a supportive shoulder for the people around them. It is also hinted in Arlecchino's line regarding him that there is a lingering possibility of succession, in which the child will eventually surpass the parent. What this entails for Lyney, we'll have to wait and see. However, while the hotel operations in Fontaine work toward a just cause, its methods can often be radical. Only the influence of Father and her control over the inner workings of the court of Fontaine prevent any serious incidents from occurring. As Lyney acclimated to his new life, he and Lynette were also given missions under Arlecchino. To say that Lyney and Lynette are clean citizens is like saying that the sun is cold. Their records are tainted with missions that include blackmail, infiltration, espionage, and theft. From what we can gather, the twins are involved in Incognito Missions that involve stealth and misdirection. As such, Lyney's magic trick performances also translated to the necessary skills he needed as a Fatui agent: sleight of hand, eloquence, and adaptability. Lyney's character story 5 and Lynette's character story 4 gives more context on what kind of missions the two are assigned in. They are the eyes of the house, gifted with the privilege of being esteemed enough members to be invited to important events. This gives them a unique position to understand how the upper echelons of Fontainian society work. As well as give them exclusive power over certain individuals. Lyney, for example, once funded an important official. This person provided both intel in support of the hotel's operations and scrubbed clean the effects of some of the hotel's clandestine actions. This official's deeds were eventually discovered, and on the brink of capture, he used an emergency communication device to send a message to Lyney. Lyney was able to save the official by creating a distraction, and thus, the official was able to avoid arrest. But Lyney's missions were not always this high profile. Lynette was the one who was first tasked with the more grievous missions, as she was the one who received her vision first. Only vision wielders like Lynette could fulfill the most dangerous missions while remaining completely anonymous, and the twins began to operate separately more often as a result. Lyney wasn't ready to accept this, and even went to Arlecchino to ask for delusions that he could operate alongside his sister. Arlecchino quickly scolded him and asked him if Lynette would want him to do that, saying that no one needs self-satisfied concern. Arlecchino left Lyney to his own thoughts, and it was then that Lyney realized he could help her in other ways. He became her strategist, analyzing her previous missions and dossiers in an attempt to find better escape routes or practical tools to help her. Lyney actually became the assistant and started making more comprehensive plans for his sister's missions, understanding that his true purpose before he got his vision was simply in the backline supporting her. But once he got his vision, he was able to go on higher stakes missions alongside her. And as we close the curtains on Lyney's backstory, we should also analyze him as a character. Lyney's true skill is in the art of adaptation, sleight of hand, and deception. Magic is not truly baseless miracles, but instead, it's an intricate series of illusions orchestrated by someone that wants to meticulously fool an audience into believing a rabbit really did come out of the hat, or their assistant really dissolved into water. That is the core of Lyney's story, the art of deception. If Lyney never adapts properly, then his performances would become stale, or his roguelike skills would wane and become predictable. As such, Lyney is flexible and intelligent in crafting plans and strategies. Even from an early age, performance was something closely tied to Lyney's life. Each time he would go on stage, Lyney would have the audience whooping and clapping. And yet, he did not lose himself in their adulation. If anything, it often troubled him. If audiences were simply drawn to the spectacle of magic, then who was to say that they wouldn't abandon Lyney's stage as soon as they caught wind of a more enthralling show in town? In other words, Just as an audience would be attracted by petals and cards, they would also be pulled away by grander fireworks and crackling gun salutes. What else did magicians have up their sleeves to capture the hearts of their audience, beyond enticing them with even more grandiose impressions of awe and shock? This also became the case when he was on his missions. As a Fatui agent, Lyney oftentimes has to adjust depending on the situation, and so he did. He adjusted. Lyney's performances weren't only bedazzling, but they also felt personal. In all of Lyney's performances afterward, audiences would begin to notice a change. Lyney would add many segments between performances in which he would interact with them. Indeed, this magician seemed without any airs, sharing various fascinating anecdotes about his life, not even minding if the audience should try to guess at the secret behind his tricks. Of course, the sharper wits amongst them would notice that Lyney's tales were not truth, but instead a way to build up the atmosphere, a peddling lead for a greater magic trick to land upon. Yet no one would quibble about these white lies. After all, truth and falsehoods were already inextricable in many parts of the performance. Why, even the magician himself could be said to have become part of the magic. Thus does Lyney sometimes appear near and dear, and other times just out of reach of the audience, balancing human affinity and magical mystery perfectly in the palm of his hand. His smile leaving the audience's imaginations free to run wild, because no matter how rich or poor, sad or glad the audience member, imagination is the great equalizer, carrying the charm of magic to all. Deception is a core theme in Lyney's story, and this is reflected in the two concepts in his life: his glorious facade and the theme of betrayal. At a young age, he was betrayed by his foster parent and lost an important person due to other people's lies. Conversely, he himself uses lies as a form of defense mechanism, even with other children of the orphanage. Lyney the Great Magician is not only a tactical persona, but it also became a mask to protect himself. He admits that it was never easy to open up to others, and that Lynette was the only constant truth in his life for the longest time. Magic and secrets piled up at Lyney's feet, growing ever taller like a tower, gazing down from atop at the people as they passed by the world below. Lyney knew very well that once trust had collapsed, the scales of judgment would no longer remain impartial, and even noble goals would become twisted and thought of as evil. As such, not revealing more than was absolutely necessary was prudent when working with others. More often than not, this makes things go more smoothly, with everyone getting the results they want. But lies will not simply scatter on the wind, and Lyney must maintain this illusion with utmost care, all the while keeping the distance from those affected. And so the tower extended towards the skies, until there would be no one to take his hand if he reached out, and even their visages blurred in his eyes. Falsehood was Lyney's constant and only companion on the path that he walked, and this road was long and lonely. This he was always clear-minded about. Everyone knew the brilliant great magician Lyney, but they loved only the mystery, the romance, the unattainable nature. They knew no love for the heart that lay deeper within. He felt he had no right to pour out his mind to others, and yet he must carry on with gritted teeth, for the price of a fall from such heights was more than he can bear. Having played too many parts, even Lyney would sometimes find himself questioning who he really was. What's fascinating about his story is that he never says that magic is beautiful, or is an altruistic, harmless act. But rather, what magic is to Lyney was a way of thinking. To see is to believe, and that to succeed in life, you need to know the right people and the right skills. Reality is nothing short of a show, and we are the actors that form it. What magic is to the audience is just intricate sleights of hands or gizmos. So the real question after everything is simple. To us, as the audience, can we trust Lyney? Can we trust the person that has admitted to themselves that they have lost the ability to trust? Can we trust Lyney when Lyney doesn't even trust himself? Can we trust him after knowing that he's willingly put up so many walls? There's no easy answer to that question. Lyney has a heart of gold for the people that he cares for, but that doesn't erase the suspicious nature of not only his background, but also himself as a person. He admits that he's an habitual liar, and that getting close to other people for information or benefit was a simple par for the course. Lyney is a master deceiver and illusionist who has crafted his mask perfectly for years. If we remove that aspect of him, that deceitful nature, then we're denying him of his complexity as a character and as a person. But I do think that the ending of Lyney's story is seeing how far trust can get you. The question and the answer isn't simply can we trust Lyney, but rather what happens if we do, and what happens if we don't. In a way, his trial during the opera house wasn't just a matter of the traveler trusting Lyney wasn't actually the killer, but also one of the rare times in Lyney's life where the magician had no more tricks. He was being condemned of a crime that he didn't commit, and he needs to trust that the traveler is not only willing to help him, but also be successful in doing so. When Lyney said that he was just being himself and didn't have an ulterior motive, it must have taken a lot for him as a person to actually trust a traveler and leave his fate to someone he didn't know. So if you want to ask if we can trust Lyney, no one can really be too sure. We just met the guy. He's amicable to us now, yes, but who's to say that he wouldn't sacrifice a traveler if, for example, Lynette was threatened, or the other members of the family were put to the test. He's a wild card, all things considered. And that's what's fun about him. Lyney is a complex character with no correct answer, and because of that, the best thing we can do is wait and see what happens to him. After all, the new version of his character card is revealing some strange foreshadowing. Nevertheless, Lyney Snezhevich and the Great Lyney are two sides of the same coin, and you can never have one without the other. Anyways, my name is Aster, thank you so much for chilling with me. Bye-bye!
Actually, the real me is nowhere near as outgoing or chatty as I appear. More often than not, I only work my verbal magic as a means of getting closer to people. Sometimes I think people would feel sorry for the real me. Do you? Or do you find my little games absurd?